Hello everyone, in this video I want to show how to build a mini adaptive music soundtrack using FMOD Studio. It's mainly for some of our students of Maclaine Diemers and my masterclass at the upcoming Composer Summit 2024 in Prague, who are skilled composers but might not have had a hands-on experience with adaptive music implementation yet. But anyone else is welcome to watch this video as well. The brief for the masterclass essentially says create a Guild Wars-like music. Now the brief gives an overview of the desired aesthetic, but also it specifies some technical aspects, mainly that there should be two cues. There should be an ambient and a combat. They both should be interactive, and one can transition into another at a moment's notice. And internally, the combat should have an opening, a main loop, a victory ending, and a failure ending. And the main loop should be really a perfect loop, which means that the listener would not be able to spot the theme when the next iteration of the loop starts. And the ambient may respond to some parameter like day or night or intensity or what have you. Okay, so one way of looking at it is this chart, which summarizes what the brief is saying. We have an ambient, which is a loop, and it exists in two versions. I'm going to call them ambient high and ambient low. And then there is the combat, which has its own start, its own loop, its endless loop, and then it has its own victory and its own loss. And when we're done playing these, we get back to playing the ambient. This is my placeholder music for this exercise. The music is by no means Guild Wars-ish, but it does illustrate the structure that we want to create here. And I'm using my trusty Reaper, and I am using regions to specify those parts of the music which are going to be exported as individual segments, which are going to be labeled according to the names of these regions. And so this is my ambient part, and this is the end of the loop. And as you can hear, there is a bit of a reverb at the end, and also a little bit of a decay of the sounds. So what I'm doing here, when I specified the region for that, just remove it and start and create the new one. I'm just going to create a time selection, and then I'm going to do insert and region. And I'm going to call it ambient. I made the region a little bit longer so that there would be enough time for the reverb and the decay to play out. And I did the same thing for the combat start. I did the same thing for combat, for victory, and for loss. So this is my combat start. So essentially, I want that this plays, and then when we are here, I want the combat loop to start. And the same thing here, when I'm done with the loop, I want to jump back here, right? And at any moment, I want to be able to jump into my victory. And there is a little bit of a lead in back to the ambient. So okay, and so I have this for victory, I have this for loss. And this is how I'm going to export all these segments. So I'm going to go to File and Render, and instead of doing the entire project or a custom time range, I want to do project regions. And I'm exporting 5 regions, and I want to name each file as region underscore tempo BPM. So the first one becomes ambient underscore 120 BPM. And I'm gonna hit render, and now I have them. I can check that I have all of them in my file manager. I actually have 2 versions of ambient, but I only exported 1. So this is going to be my high, my ambient high, and my ambient low is going to be the same music without the additional layer. That's my aesthetic choice here. You don't have to do this. You probably will want to do something completely different. This is just for demonstration purposes. But whatever you do, make sure that you have this correspondence of the two layers. The game is going to be crossfading from one to another, so be ready that this can happen at any moment. So make sure that both layers have some kind of a, let's say, music correspondence in them. All right, and I only want to export this segment. So this time around, I'm going to do render and region render matrix. And I'm going to go down here to region matrix, and here I'm going to say that I just want to do the first one, the first region. That's going to be the ambient, and I'm going to change the file name to be low, you know, to have this underscore low tag at the end. Render. All right, and now I have all my assets that I need to implement in FMOD Studio. To get FMOD Studio, go to www.fmod.com, and then you probably need to create a profile for yourself if you don't have one. Then hit download, go to the FMOD Studio section, and get probably the latest version, and hit download, and then install whatever installer you have just downloaded. This is the welcome screen of FMOD Studio. I'm going to hit new project. I'm going to create a new event. Right click, new event, new 2D timeline. I will call it music. An event is essentially an elementary unit of audio that could be triggered from the game. Music is one such an event. So typically game would trigger an event that is called music, and then it relies on FMOD Studio to play this music until told otherwise. Let's implement the ambient loop. This is the timeline sheet of the music event. These numbers are measure numbers. These lines are bar lines. Let's explicitly state that we are running at 120 BPM by right-clicking this section, this row of logic tracks, and then adding a tempo marker. So that's just what I did. And in order to populate the track with actual music, let's just locate the file in your file manager, and just drag and drop that file here, and that's it. Now when I hit play, I hear the music. So far so good. I was saying that this is supposed to be a loop. There is no information that this piece of music needs to loop or should loop. So I need to create a loop region by right-clicking here and creating loop region like this. And I want that the loop ends here at the end of bar 16, and it goes to bar first, to the first bar. Yeah, it's right here. I never got to play this part. So when I'm at the end of the loop, this reverb was omitted. So this would never play. So what I want to do here, I want to create a transition timeline, which will run at the end of this loop. And what I want to do is I want to use a little bit. I want to use the remaining bit of the at the end of the loop by dragging on this dashed line to the right. So I'm like extending the playback of whatever was left of this transition timeline, and it should look like this. And I also want that when I'm playing the transition, I want to play the destination as well. So I just want to do like this. Okay, and now when I'm looping, I first play the transition timeline, and the transition timeline takes one measure to complete. So essentially when and this is my playhead, so so the playhead goes to the transition timeline, and then it reemerges here at the bar 2. So essentially bar 17 and bar 1 were playing at the same time. But there was this crossfade here, and we want to get rid of it because we want that both measures are playing at the full volume. So I'm gonna do like this, and I'm going to do like this. So essentially I essentially removed the fade out altogether, and I also removed the fade in altogether from the destination, and now I should hear. Now I get to hear the entire piece, you know, the entire reverb and the decay of the bar 16 together with the bar number 1. Of course, we have to save the project and keep saving regularly. It's always a good idea. So go to File and do Save As, and let's create a directory called chiptune demo, in which I'm going to create a project called chiptune demo. I'm gonna hit save, and let's check what got saved. So this is the directory that we just created, chiptune demo, and it contains this chiptune-demo.fspro file. But that's only a header. It doesn't contain any, it doesn't contain much of useful information other than just the studio version. Where the actual magic happens is in this directory, where all the files, all the audio files are getting stored, and also in this directory, metadata, where you have a whole bunch of XML files which describe individual settings of all the different projects, and all the different objects that you're interacting with. What's really important is that when you are giving your project to someone else, make sure to zip the entire directory. Okay, not just this simple file. It doesn't, as I was showing, doesn't contain any useful information other than version number. Make sure to include metadata, assets, essentially all these things. So what I want to do, I want to do something like a right click that directory, and I want to just add it to some kind of an archive or zip it or something, like, depending on what computer settings you have. Okay, and this is the file that I would be giving to someone now. All right, let's get back to our implementation. So now I have the ambient, which is looping, and but that's the ambient high, right? Because we also have the ambient low. I'll go back to my assets, ambient low, and I want to insert this thing here as well. So I essentially want that ambient high and ambient low are playing at the same time. So I want to create another audio track. I'm just going to place this one there, this ambient low there, and I want to do the same trick I did before. So I am killing the crossfade, and now both of them should be playing at the same time. Nice. What I want to do now is that I have I placed them into separate tracks, onto separate tracks, so that I can have an independent control of their volume, right? Let me just let's go ahead and rename these tracks to something more legible. It's always a good idea to actually name your files, whatever you do, just name them in a way that it's consistent and that you would be able to understand what you did. Let's say, I don't know, you get back to this project 2 years from now, you still want to be able to understand what you meant. So at that point. So I'm gonna do ambient high, and this is ambient low. Okay. Right, so what I want to do, well, right, so I have an independent volume control of both, but now it's me who is tweaking this volume knob. I want that the game is able of doing that, so I need some kind of automation here. I can right click on the volume knob and click add automation, but I would be creating an automation on the timeline, and that's not what I want. I definitely could do that, you know. I could definitely do my crossfades here, you know, just like you would in your regular DAW, right? But that's not what we want. We want that this crossfade is not driven by the timeline, but rather by some parameter. So in order to do that, I'm going to click this plus sign, and I'm going to add a parameter sheet. I'm going to click new parameter, and I'm going to call this parameter intensity. I'm going to make it a global parameter, and it's a continuous parameter from 0 to 1. So the game is at any given moment, you know, we would assume that the game would be at any given moment setting the intensity to anything between 0 and 1. And now this, if this was the time, now this line is not the timeline anymore. It's the parameter that we are going to use to control certain things. Okay, so now when I right click and do automate and do add automation, whatever curve I draw here is going to be setting the volume depending on the value of this parameter. Okay, and this is this knob here, or this slider here, allows me to test things before it's even like linked to the game, because that would take some time until that's done, right? So you want to have something local directly in your FMOD Studio. So what I want to do is now to define the crossfade curves. So this is an ambient high, and our intensity is 0. So I want that the high isn't playing when the intensity is 0, and I want the high to play when the intensity is 1. So this would be my curve. So as when I'm changing the parameter here from 0 to 1, the volume also changes from minus infinity to 0, essentially from nothing to full volume. And here I'm going to do exactly the exact opposite. So this is ambient low, so I want the ambient low to play fully when the intensity is 0, and I want none of it playing when the intensity is 1. And now when I do this, you can see that by tweaking, by changing a single parameter, I get to change the volume of both tracks at the same time. So let's hit play, and let's test what happens when I change the parameter. So the extreme values work. When I'm in the middle, I get this volume dip because I need to design my curve in a slightly better. So here's an exponential curve. So I'm gonna do like this. Okay, so I don't have the audible dip there anymore, so that's good. So this is working now. If we have to assume that the game can give us random, well, not random, but it's not going to be happening. It's not going to change all that often, but it may change in a, let's say, discontinuous manner. So let's say that something happens and the intensity jumps up at 0.8, and then it drops down to 0.1, and then it jumps up at 0.95. And if I do this, you can actually hear it sounds a bit glitchy. So we want to slow down this sweep of the volume of the the sweep of the intensity of the volume levels here. So I can click this parameter here, and I can set the seek speed, let's say, to 0.75 per second, which means that when the value changes, it will take some time until we reach that destination. Okay, so that's it. So now we have a full implementation of an endless ambient. We don't have an ending for it. We don't have we have a plausible start for it. We don't have an ending. So let's not deal with that at this point. But we have a full response to intensity, and we have full implementation of a seamless loop here. So let's proceed to implementing more of our features, more of our musical segments. So since ambient high and ambient low are driven by intensity, and the combat is not driven by the intensity, I want to add additional audio track here so that the intensity doesn't affect the volume of the last of this track. And I'm going to call it combat. All right, so what I want to do now is I just want to I need to go back to my assets. I want to let's do the transition from ambient to combat. Okay, so we have this combat start segment. I'm just going to drag and drop onto my timeline. All right, so here I have to specify the tempo of 140 BPM, right? Because that's what we have. So it's a really good idea to understand, to remember what your at which BPM your pieces of music are. A little bit of a disadvantage of FMOD Studio is that while you can change the tempo on your timeline, it's a kind of a cumbersome process. So it kind of forces you to do like constant tempos, to have portions of music of constant tempo. Don't expect that you can do like a complicated like a retardandi and stuff like that. But anyway, okay, so this is my combat start, and what I want to do, I want to actually do some markup here so that I know which part is which. So I did the add destination marker, and this marker appeared, and I'm going to call this marker ambient, and this is my combat start. Okay, and what I want to do now is to have the transition from ambient to combat start. So we were saying that this can happen at any moment, so let's implement that. So there are these transition arrows here. So whenever there's this arrow, I can say that the destination is going to be, let's say, combat start. When this arrow is encountered during the playback, it will jump to the destination that was selected. Nice. So this happens. Now I only want this transition to happen when an actual combat is happening, so that this thing does not happen every single time. I only want that this happens when certain condition is met. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do add condition. I'm going to do add parameter condition. I'm going to do browse. I'm going to create new parameter, and I'm going to create a new labeled parameter that I will call context. And I want that this context has two values. One is ambient. The other one is combat. They are both. It is a global. It's a global parameter. I hit OK. And now this transition is going to happen only when the context is going to be combat. Okay. So when I'm playing this, nothing happens because the combat was not selected. But when I'm playing, when I'm playing now and the combat is selected, it's going to jump. It's going to jump here. Nice. Now I only have one transition throughout this entire loop. That would not be enough because there is only one point in time per an iteration that I can do this transition, do this jump. That's too little. I want to do something more, let's say, thorough. I want to do transition region so that there would be, so that this entire thing behaves, you know, so that this entire thing is a transition, like a potential transition to the combat. Okay, so now this entire thing, I can get rid of this one, delete. So now this entire thing is going to respond. Now this entire loop, this entire segment of music is going to respond to the condition. What is the condition? I have to specify it. I'm going to say that it's my context, and it's the combat. So whenever the combat changes, I mean whenever the context changes for combat, the combat starts to play. But as you can see, now it happens at any given moment, like any arbitrary point in time. Whenever this parameter changes, I immediately jump here. I don't want that. I want that this only happens at some musically, let's say, logical, points, at some musically logical points in time. So I can quantize this, these transitions, so that the transition can only happen on every bar, or every other bar, or every quarter note, or every half note. So let's just do on every bar line. And now we're going to wait until the end of this measure before we jump further. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice. Now we know how to start a combat, but there is no way that the combat continues, right? There is no continuation of the combat just yet. So let's go ahead and create the loop for the combat in a similar way how we did the ambience. So I dragged and dropped the piece of music on it, onto the timeline onto the combat track. I'm going to create a new loop region that is going to go like this. I want to create a transition timeline just like I did before. I want to do this. I want to eradicate the crossfade there so that I have the last bar and the first bar playing simultaneously, because the last bar is containing the reverb and the decay of the sounds that we're playing in the penultimate measure, essentially. And so it should be working now. Yeah. Nice. I also need to create a destination marker here so that we know that this is our combat. What I want to do is that from here I do an unconditional transition to combat, so that once I'm done playing with this, I can just I go here. So I'm going to do I'm going to go here. I'm going to create a transition, add transition to combat, and let me just make sure that it's precisely aligned. Yeah, this is also very important. Make sure that when it's like, you know, when it's not precisely aligned, it's going to you know, that your timing is going to be off. All right, so I want to do transition timeline here because I want to be able to finish playing, you know, I want to be able to play what I was playing here while I'm already playing the second thing, because there is this because this one, it also has a decay, right? So now it's what I'm going to have. Right. So now I have this natural ending of this you know, segment bleeding into the beginning of the next one. Now I just want to tidy up a little bit. I want to have the loop regions in the same at the same height like everything else. And now what I need to do is the transition from combat back to the ambient. So I want to do transition region again, just like I had before. I'm going to do the same routine. I'm going to set up the quantization interval, and I'm going to set the condition that the context needs to be the ambient, so that I would do the jump back. So I'm playing combat. And it's not working. Why not? Yeah, because I didn't send the destination. Destination is ambient, right? Right, so I was playing the combat, and when I do ambient, I'm just going to jump back here. So maybe maybe I can do every other bar, not just in every bar. It might sound a little bit better. Right, so now what I have is a direct jump from ambient to the combat start. That's not exactly what we wanted, right? Because we still need to process the combat ending, and you know, we have two of those. We have a loss and we have a victory. So let's do something similar. So let's do a loss. It's going to be here. Let's do a victory. That's going to be here. Okay, and now we need to make this this destination to go not to the ambient, but first to the combat. First to loss, and then or to victory, right? And only once we're done playing this, at this point only we can do the jump back to the ambient. Right? Okay. We want to do our custom like transitions here as well. By the way, to open this thing, sometimes it's enough to just double click. That's the same thing as right clicking and specifying your timeline. Okay, so now we have that. Nice. Okay, so we have this little hook at the end, or the tail at the end, like you know, bleeding into the opening. So that's what we want. Nice. So now we need to make sure that this context actually goes to. We still need to be in. Okay, so we want to be in ambient. We want to go to region. We want to go to loss. But we need to make sure that we are able to specify how the combat ended. So we need another parameter. So I'm going to do add condition. I'm going to do add parameter condition going to create a new parameter. Let's call it outcome. No, let's make it a labeled first. Let's call it outcome. And we could either lose or win. Okay, it's going to be a global parameter again. Okay, and now I want that this transition happens only if we want to jump back to ambient and the condition is loss. And the same thing, now we need another transition timeline, transition region. So it's going to be exactly the same thing. We need to specify the quantization as well, because if we don't, then this and this, they are independent of each other, so they don't know about each other. So each of them is, handled independently. So the destination is victory again. Let me just tidy up a little bit again. It's always a good idea to actually have these, at the same height, so that later on it all looks the same. All right, so now we have to loss. There was a transition timeline that we don't need. Okay, so loss, victory. Oh yeah, victory doesn't have the conditions just yet. So the context must be ambient, and the outcome must be victory, so that we would go to victory. Okay, now, so let's see if it works. So we were playing combat, and let's say that we're going to win this combat. Okay, so it's working. So now we have a functioning implementation of the structure that we wanted. So we're responding to intensity in our ambient responds to the intensity. We can jump to combat. And we can jump back to ambient when we need to. Alright, so there you have it. So this is the complete implementation of this little etude. I want to make sure that I have saved the project. If I go back to my chiptune demo project, I can ensure that I have all the assets stored in there. It's like a good check that everything is consistent. So I want to take this directory. I want to zip it, and this could be my submission to the masterclass. Well, at least from the technical point of view. So thank you for watching, and we will see you with Maclaine at the end of the month. Bye bye. Thank you.